Today we are wrapping up my Gen Con top 60 picks with my final 15. Hey there, I'm Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise, and we are mere days away from North America's largest annual board game convention, Gen Con, where at least 600 new board, card, and tabletop games are going to become available for gamers to add to their gaming tables, their shelves, and their game nights. I recently combed through this list of upcoming games, and I picked out about 10% of them that interested me the most to discuss here in this series. This particular episode in the series wraps up the top 60 picks with only 15 left to cover. So let's continue on with number 46. Number 46 is an expansion for Stockpile, Illicit Investments. Stockpile Illicit Investments, the second expansion for Stockpile, contains a deck of investment strategy cards that influence your actions every round. Players can now shoot for the big short, conduct cowboy marketing, or pump and dump a company's stock. Which sounds unsanitary, but the game also provides another investor card, Illicit Ivan, and an optional variant for deciding your player order. Stockpile remains an oldie but goodie. In fact, it's around here some... Oh, here it is. Yep, front and center. Yep. In fact, Stockpile still sits on my shelves ready and waiting to be played next. In fact, the next time I play it, I hope will be with the Illicit Investments expansion worked into the mix. Number 47 on the list is Tattoo Stories, a drawing party game where your art skills, much like my opinions on the Star Wars franchise, don't matter. In a series of quick-paced tattoo competitions, win the most points by making up tattoos and telling the best stories. Players will compete to get their tattoo story selected from the other players, and those players will receive points for using the selected tattoo elements most creatively. Now, in the end, the player with the most cards and the sickest ink wins the game. To be fair, storytelling games are always hit and miss, but Tattoo Stories is a unique enough theme that I'm willing to give this one a try to see if it scores a hit. Number 48 is Thieves Den, a card drafting, pattern building worker placement game. In Thieves Den, set in the world of 10-Minute Heist, the Wizard's Tower, the players are master thieves who send their hirelings out into the city to nab the choicest treasures and then sell those ill-gotten gains to the underworld fences to increase the master thief's reputation. Certain treasures can also be bartered to Alizar, the wizard, for special powers, which is very kind of him. However, it comes at a price, because Alizar don't play. After 3 rounds, the player with the highest reputation is the new crime lord of the town. Illicitly ill-getting ill-gotten booty for your own personal game while bartering with underworld elements? Oh, count me in. Number 49 is Time Chase, which it turns out is not a game based on the 1994 cinematic masterpiece Time Chasers. This instead is a trick-taking game published by Renegade Game Studios, or The Twist. In this game, players are allowed to actually travel back in time to previous tricks that have been taken, known as events, and change their outcome. Then, the first player to control 3 events in the timeline wins it all. And that sounds really neat. In fact, the only thing that would make this concept even more appealing is if the game was rethemed to center around the exploits of science enthusiast Nick Miller as he struggles to use his time-traveling prop plane, powered by a 64-bit home computer, to thwart the evil corporation GenCorp, a purposeless high-tech firm run by J.K. Robertson whose office is located in the mezzanine of a shopping mall. But I seem to have gotten off course somehow. So that's Time Chase, an intriguing-sounding trick-taking game, unfortunately not based on a movie that this promotional photo here is taken from. I mean, just think of the marketing tie-in potential that you're missing out on, Renegade Game Studios. The mullets alone in this movie could warrant their own expansion. Have your marketing people call me. Well, have your marketing people unblock my number, then call me. Number 50 is the Tooth Fairy game. The Tooth Fairy game is the first kids game developed by Peterson Games under their new imprint, Larva Games. This is actually 4 games in one, complete with 125 plastic teeth in 5 different colors, 5 bags in 5 different colors, 6-sided dice, 5 Tooth Fairy cards, and rules in English, Spanish, French, and German, and Italian, which is a smart move, Peterson Games, because we all know that the Tooth Fairy travels the entire world covertly collecting obsolete oral bone fragments from children from all nations and languages, lurking unseen under cover of darkness. Among the games that this box includes rules for is a game about baby teeth called That's My Tooth, a game about pulling teeth, another about adult teeth, and one called Lie Through Your Teeth, which is a variation on the classic game of Liar's Dice. Overall, this seems to be a really inventive set of children's games, which getting parents to play hopefully won't be like pulling teeth. The Tooth Fairy still owes me $17. Number 51 is the Towers of Camelot, a dice drafting tower building game for 2 to 4 players. This is pitched as a fast and fun family game that plays out in about 20 to 30 minutes. In the Towers of Camelot, players must jointly build arcane towers to channel the power of past civilizations. And for this, your master and apprentices must use magic stones, dice, and apply abilities written in the Book of Magic, a book, acquiring prestige and becoming the magician with the most incredible reputation throughout the kingdom. There's always room in my collection for another fun, fast-paced family game, which has enough strategy in it to keep my wife and I engaged, but also is fun enough for my kid who actually usually beats us anyway, no matter what game we're playing, now that I think about it. So yeah, that's the Tower of Camelot, my last-ditch effort at victory. Number 52 is Tricky Druids. The players in Tricky Druids spend all day long collecting ingredients for their potions, because they're so super nice they give each other gifts all the time. Not like that Tooth Fairy who's going to jip you out of $17 worth of hard-earned tooth money. In the game Tricky Druids, each player brews potions in their huts, hidden from everyone else, and each potion needs special ingredients to succeed. These happy, altruistic druids are having a great time, giving ingredients away to one another, and the recipient of each can decide to accept the gift with thanks or return it to the giver. Well, in that case, the giver mixes the ingredients in their own potion or just throws the potion in the trash to keep the potion from overflowing. The information that I was able to find about Tricky Druids online was written with such a happy, cheerful perspective that it really intrigued me about how this game is actually going to play, which is one of the reasons I'm really interested to find out more about it at Gen Con, to find out if it really is such a genuine feel-good experience, or to find out if there are more layers of skullduggery lurking below its surface. I'm actually hoping it's the former. Number 53 is Undaunted Normandy, designed by Trevor Benjamin, who also designed War Chest, which is right here. This game is cool. In fact, hang on. Here's his other game, Undaunted, which I got to play at Origins, which is also cool. This is a deck-building game that places you and your opponents in command of American or German forces fighting through a series of missions critical to the outcome of World War II. Players will use their cards to seize the initiative, bolster their forces, or control their troops on the battlefield in multiple scenarios. To win, or even come close to beating your opponent, strong leadership is absolutely critical, and it can help to turn the tide of battle in your favor. But reckless decisions could also be catastrophic, as every casualty you take removes a card from your deck. So take charge amidst the chaos of battle, hold fast in the face of opposition, and remain undaunted. If you enjoyed War Chest or just deck builders in general, do yourself a favor and check out Undaunted. We are on a roll with only 7 games left to go on this entire list, so let's abruptly interrupt our momentum with this arbitrary thing that some random person wants to sell to you. Hey, and welcome back to this YouTube channel, which I hope that you're subscribing to and hitting the little bell notifications for right now. Because if it's one thing that complements the video watching experience, it's extra work to do. Let's continue on with number 54, which is Undo, another time travel card game on the list that's also not based on David Giancola's 1994 directorial debut Time Chasers. Gah! Instead, this is a cooperative storytelling adventure card game which presents emotional, extraordinary stories that players must assemble piece by piece and attempt to resolve. Now, before I go any further with this, full disclosure. This game can actually be a little bit off-putting to some, as it deals with the pretty heavy theme of attempting to undo untimely deaths. To prevent these unfortunate events, players will travel minutes or hours or years back in time, sometimes even thousands of decades, to change events that have laid the foundation for future repercussions. In the Undo series, each time jump gives the players another choice in how they can change the past, but not every change is going to be a better result in the future. So yes, I am torn on the Undo series. I'm very curious about what it's going to present, but I'm also quite skeptical, especially because of its theme. So in spite of, well, actually, because of this curiosity, it's the reason why I really am intrigued to find out more about it at Gen Con, to find out if it's worth pursuing or if it's another game that perhaps is left undone. Number 55 is Unmatched, a highly asymmetrical miniatures fighting game for 2 or 4 players. In this game, each hero is represented by a unique deck designed to evoke their style and legend. You've got a myriad of legendary fictional and non-fictional characters at your disposal to choose from, but I'll get back to that in just a second. First, I want to mention to you what this game wants me to mention to you, which is its tactical movement and no-luck combat resolution system, which creates a unique play experience that rewards expertise. Because just when you've mastered one set, new heroes are going to pop up and arrive to provide all new matchups for you to have to figure out and struggle with until you win, perhaps. Perhaps not, but either you win or not win, fun will be had. Earlier, I mentioned that this game includes a myriad of different heroes to choose from, such as King Arthur, or Sinbad, or Alice from Wonderland, or Bigfoot, and just a whole bunch more. Oh, and to answer what is inevitably your very first question, because it was mine, this is the ancient, old, legendary Sinbad of yore, not the 80s comedian. At least not yet, because there's a lot of expansions coming, so... Each of the cards in this game offer unique effects and a simple but deep timing system that leads to interesting decisions each time that you play it. This game includes a double-sided board with 2 different battlefields, pre-washed miniatures for each hero, and custom life trackers. Restoration Games just seems to be on fire with Unmatched. It's one of the few games that actually sold out completely on the Board Game Geek pre-order system before Gen Con, so a lot of people are hoping to scoop this game up, and I think with good reason. Number 56 is Until Daylight. Look, not all games have to like you, and that's okay. But every now and then, you come across a game that seems to just revel in its dispassionate disdain for your struggle for victory. And with that, allow me to introduce Daylight, a cooperative survival game in which your goal is to survive 10 waves of enemies and save at least one of the survivors in the game. Good luck. Because during the game, players can find and exchange objects and weapons and ammunition with other characters, and they can build traps or barricades to protect themselves and to ensure their survival as a group. With all of that at the player's disposal, I don't see how we can lose. Now, each character that you can play in this game has its own unique advantages and drawbacks, which can help amplify the tension that builds over the course of this game. Now, the publisher's description of this game states that, quote, "A player's first games should be difficult, and they will probably die." Thanks, game. But don't worry, it continues, it's normal to lose like this because surviving the apocalypse isn't supposed to be easy. It then politely offers some salt for that wound by adding that every attempt will teach players a little more about the game mechanisms and strategic priorities. Until Daylight is a game in which every single action counts and where time will be very, very cruel to you. In some phases, players will have only a few seconds to react before the horde falls upon them. Perfect. Thanks, game. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm in. Number 57 is Vindication, formerly known as Epoch: The Awakening. This is a highly strategic, fantasy-based tabletop journey for 2 to 5 players, with a playtime of 15 to 30 minutes per player. In this game, players start out enjoying their luxurious boat ride until they're thrown overboard due to their life of wretchedness, and eventually they wash ashore a hostile island of ruins completely alone with nothing except the breath in their lungs and an undaunted spirit. Well, you're already off to a great start. Then what happens? Well then, through the player's advanced resource management techniques, area control tactics, and freeform action selection, they will add companions to their party, acquire bizarre relics, attain potent character traits, and defeat a host of unnatural monsters towards the ultimate goal of mastering heroic attributes and regaining their honor. Ta-da! Wow, you have quite the challenge ahead of you, don't you, game player? But don't worry, I have complete and utter confidence in you, because you have strength of character and are not a total deadbeat, unlike a certain dental sprite I could mention, but won't. Number 58 is Watergate, a political thriller from Capstone Games. In this two-player game, Watergate, one player represents the Nixon administration and tries not to resign before the end of the game, while the other player represents the Washington Post and tries to show the connections between Nixon and some of his informers. I usually avoid games based on real-life political stuff like this because I'd rather be an elf. But this game really does intrigue me. I saw this being played at Origins. I didn't get a chance to play it myself, but based on what I saw and heard about the game there, it instantly went on my list for Gen Con. This game has been compared to Twilight Struggle, perhaps Twilight Struggle Light, but in some ways it may actually be a little more approachable and accessible. So even for someone who, when it comes to real-life political dramas unfolding in front of them, would just rather not, Watergate still, to me, is intriguing and interesting enough that, okay, yeah, show me what you got, Watergate. Number 59 is Welkin. The goal of Welkin is to win the most gold by crafting and selling those famous floating islands that you see on science fiction book covers and that one time that the chiropractor accidentally wrote you the wrong prescription. Now each turn, the players can either select a new island creation to contract for construction, produce one of the 5 various resources that are available, or allocate those resources onto their contracts to craft them. Sounds easy, but not so fast, because players will have limited spaces to store their contracts and their resources, so they're going to have to constantly juggle their production to complete their objectives in an optimized manner. I'm really interested in finding out more about Welkin to see if the game goes well, or if it's one I can do without. We only have one left, and it's number 60, which is Wreck Raiders, a dice-rolling set collection worker placement game that uses an interesting dice drafting system. In this game, players are competing to recover exotic treasures from a seafloor that's overflowing with pirate shipwrecks. So send your divers into the deep, but be careful, because moving too close to other divers lets them get in on the haul that you're bringing up. Players will accomplish the recovery of their treasures by selecting dice from a central pool and then sending one of their divers to any spot on the board that matches that number. But be warned, Mr. Diver Guy, because the spot that you choose will help any diver in the spots that are next to them, whether they are friendly or not. In short, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is also potentially mine. Will you risk letting a rival in on your haul to get that treasure that you really do want, or can you find a way to grab yourself some other loot somewhere else? That is the conundrum at the center of every turn in Wreck Raiders. Now, I got to see an overview of this game at Origins, and it looked pretty interesting, with room to make some pretty tricky decisions. In fact, the only problem that I have with this game is that I always mishear its title as Rock Raida, one of the DJs from the Executioners. And if you understand that reference, well, let's hang out sometime. But for now, we're done hanging out, because that is my list of the top 60 games that I am hoping to find out more about at Gen Con 2019. And if you are going to be at Gen Con this year, well, be sure to stop by the Board Game Geek booth where I'll be working throughout the convention, and come say hi. But until then, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise, and take care.